Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council meeting. This is a regularly scheduled council meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. The time is 5:35 p.m. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Baraboo,
Present.
Friedlieb,
Here.
Beyondich,
Present.
Baranzelli,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Cuffey, or Paulson, sorry,
Present.
Cuffey.
Present. Okay, would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have quite an audience here this evening. Thank you for everybody for coming to the council meeting this evening. Pam will try to get you the names of everybody that's in attendance here as we make their presentation, and those who do not make a presentation, we'll get their names so you can record that in your minutes. Okay, we'll move to item 4, which is the public forum. We have two speakers today, two individuals that would like to make some comments and questions and announcements. First of all, we have Bob Fitzgerald, who is the director of the Bemidji office for Kraus Anderson, who is our construction manager at risk for the miners, and is here today to introduce our new manager of our miners project. Please come forward and welcome Bob.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having me this evening in attendance. Got to meet some new faces as well that I've only heard over the Zoom meeting. So, yeah, kind of a bittersweet moment for us, obviously. Carl McGorn, who's the current project manager on the project, has decided to change directions in his career, and he's going to be changing companies, along with a little bit of his role there. So that part's the bittersweet, or the bitter part of it, saying goodbye to Carl. But I also enjoy the sweet part of it, which is to introduce other team members from our office and our depth of our team. And that's Pat Wirtz. Pat will become the project manager, already has been digging in, been on for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and getting after it. And the learning curve will be very short for him, not only on the project, but there's not much of a learning curve because he's also worked with DSGW on several projects, most recently the Paul Bunyan Communications projects in Grand Rapids, and more specifically with Eric Wedge. So I don't know if you wanted to say any words or not, Pat, and just say hello, but Pat will be the project manager going forward here as we say goodbye to Carl.
Thank you. Mr. Wirtz?
Sure, just want to say, look forward to working with you guys and can deliver a very good project for the community of Virginia.
Well, welcome. We look forward to working with you as we did with Carl.
And if I could steal one more minute, Carl is on the Zoom, and I didn't know if he wanted to share a few words. I know we chatted earlier today, and he's going to miss all of you and the project. So, Carl, if you're online and you could unmute yourself, the floor is yours.
Sure, thanks, Bob, and thank you, Councilor and Mayor. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure working with the city there, and I'm going to miss working with the city and look forward to visiting the area and seeing a completed project. I was mentioning to Bob, my sons are involved with hockey, and it'd be cool to see them skate there in the future, and see that Dad had a part in starting this project. So again, thank you for the pleasure it's been to work with you, and looking forward to that building being completed in the next year.
Well, thank you, Carl, and I just want to, once again, for the last time, apologize for calling you Carl Anderson. And I know I did that on several occasions. And Carl McGurn, I apologize for that. A good friend of mine, his name is Carl Anderson. That's no reason for me not to refer as your name. But once again, at the last time, I want to apologize for that. And I wish you all the very best. I think we all do moving forward. You've done yeoman's work and been very passionate about this project as the work, as all the Carl Sanderson construction people have been doing. Your management team has been fantastic. So we look forward for Pat to just move right in and fill that role.
He will do just that. And I would like to say I would like to be there in person tonight, but over the weekend I contracted a cold and don't want to take the risk of spreading a cold to other people and having questions made. So we made the decision that I would stay home. So
Well,
Thank
yes, and we appreciate you coming on the Zoom. So anybody else have any questions or comments? And bid you farewell, Carl, and good luck in your future endeavors.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Wirtz, pleasure. Welcome aboard. Okay, well, let's see. The next individual that has asked to speak before the council today is Mr. Terry Hardica. Mr. Terry Hardica does our audiovisual and does our cable access things, and he's asked to address the council and the community this evening. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hardica.
I'd like to take the next hour or two to talk about what we have been seeing on the news. And I was going to read this, and I don't know that I really want to read it. There's been so much polarization that has been taking place, and we've had some pretty ugly confrontations. And I think for the sake of not taking an hour, I'm just going to try to read some of this. We've written into our Constitution the right of every citizen to petition the government for a redress of grievances without a fear of reprisal. What we've seen in our nation is not that. None of you here need to defend yourselves for your race or for your forefathers, but we do need to acknowledge the facts that are before us. The riots have demanded a response nationally, and locally our protests deserve a local response, not for defense, but for compassion's sake. Tragedy today is not just this revolutionary march towards socialism in the name of systemic racism, but it's our sin on both sides of the fence against the remedy for all of our sins. After slavery ended, we created vagrancy laws, laws against not having a job, and we enforced those against the black population. The GI Bill and the FHA loans were largely forbidden to black families. Factories were moved to white suburbs and fundamentally denied decent employment to black families. Neighborhood covenants saw realtors lose their licenses if they sold to black families. Prisons exploded from 350,000 in 1980 to over 2.5 million in 2005. Data shows it was sentencing policies. I'm not saying this because I'm telling you these are hard and cold facts, although I have done a lot of research on it, but that we might explore some of these things for ourselves. 1 in 106 white men and 1 in 14 blacks were put in prison, though they had the same drug rate. Today, the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, yet allowing it in our prisons, sees regions competing for more prisons to provide a workforce. We can split hairs about some of the details, but the facts by and large detail systematic racism. I've seen and known of far worse treatment than our black folks in America have received, and yet witnessed far greater responses and far better biblical solutions. But I have to win the right to be heard with my honesty about what got us here. And it's not my place tonight to detail the sins of the black community during their years of oppression until I acknowledge the history of my own white population in our nation. Show compassion and care. We have unrelenting pain and hatred and division, and that's a high price to pay to satisfy our need to be right. What I will not do is acknowledge that our nation's form of government is faulty in design as a constitutional republic operating by the precept of democracy. Our former system of government is not wrong by design. We have wrongs in the present day because of men who have misused and abused a good system. The Marxist agenda by the BLM leaders' own actions says that systemic racism does not mean it is system-wide, it means it is system-designed. We take great exception with that. Our system of government provides the methods necessary to change misguided laws, and we have them, including where the 13th Amendment has been used to legitimize penal servitude. Black Lives Matters, as an organization, claims it is an ideological and political intervention in a world where black lives are systemically and intentionally targeted for demise. I have been told in no uncertain terms on the Iron Range that we black people here do not support Black Matters, or Black Lives Matter, at least those of us who know what it stands for. We don't follow them. The root of the BLM liberation theology says that poverty is from systemic sin in the government. Therefore, government must be changed by revolution if necessary. My concern is the people here are getting tuned up by what is happening elsewhere, and we, as well as they, are being victimized locally. My own family was viciously demeaned by an emotionally charged situation in our own house because of this. So listen, I'm asking people to let others off the hook for being human. Those who have attacked us, I want to let them off the hook and give them the patience and the time to process what's happening. They're reacting to what's going on in our major cities and blaming whoever crosses their path. They'll get past it, but let's not escalate it. Let's not sin against the remedy for sin here. I did a program on racial bias on the Iron Range because I realized that we're hearing nothing about what we face here daily, only nationally. We've got to stop arguing on a national level and identifying with national influences that don't live where we live. I tell you, your life has always mattered to me. I mean it. Accept it. We've also got to stop feeling that we need to align with a revolutionary agenda that identifies with many other issues, such as we do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege. In other words, if you were born biologically a male and you identify as a male, you have cisgender privilege, and they want to dismantle that privilege. I don't want to have to agree with that to help our local community. They also say we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, which is mother, father, and children under one roof. We also foster a queer affirming network. Without this understanding of the bigger agenda, we're going to form extreme alliances and divisions on the Iron Range, and that has already started to happen. I believe that we simply want to help people overcome our social racism without turning to socialism. Our system of government was formed with a motivation to have freedom of religion without government interference. It's an in God we trust foundation, not an in God we detest foundation. If equality is created by a mandated, all-inclusive multitude, neither Christianity nor Islam can be legal in practice. We hear the cry for justice. The courtroom decides justice, but only the cross can enable a man to walk in justice. We've turned freedom of religion into freedom from religion, and we are calling good evil and evil good. Seattle has called it the season of love. The murder of the unborn is right because it's our right. Today, we've turned religion's mandate of marriage as between a man and a woman into hate speech. We've replaced it with a Marxist language of equality through inclusion. where both Christianity and Islam will become branded as religions of hate. The Bible's all about justice and how to get there. The Gospels talk about being offended. The word is scandalize. It means to cause someone to mistrust someone who ought to be respected. It's become our way of life. The greatest transgression against a government of the people is to scandalize and to cause the loss of confidence in that government. When that reaches its intended end, the government collapses. Our government is designed to be based upon the people, with fundamental concepts of justice and mercy applied to their own behavior. It was based upon the understanding that selfishness was public enemy number one, and that we needed the precepts of God to be a free people, first in our hearts and then our families and then our nation. Thus, the courts decide justice, but only the cross establishes the mercy that gives the power to live it. Jesus said, if you would have known what this means, I have my glass of water from back there, someone. My mouth is getting dry from the medication and trying to talk. That's one of the reasons I'm not in the pulpit anymore. Sorry for taking so long. He said, if you would have known what this means, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. The crisis point for America here is that we can't rightly judge a black man or a white man if our heart immediately jumps to cries of justice instead of pleas for mercy. When justice hurts our lives, injustice hurts our lives and families, whatever color and cause, if our hearts are filled with self-righteousness, it will lead to bitterness and hate, quickly judging others wrongly. We too easily forget that we're flawed. We all need mercy and have no right to ask for mercy if we will not give it. I've seen personally what socialism has done. In many trips, I've walked the streets of many Russian cities, visited hospitals and orphanages, prisons, jails, auditoriums. I've seen what people in this nation are trying to bring us to, what it results in. We've faced many gang situations. What you see on the news, we've had to face personally with no protection. One day, 3 of us men had to shut down the meeting, go out into the parking lot, and separate the gang into 3 different groups. One of them told us, if you were black, I'd find any way I could to kill you right now. I was in an auditorium in a rented or a retirement home. It was packed with old folks, and I shared the gospel. At the end, the manager tried to shut me down, so I gave an invitation to receive the gospel. Every person in that place stood. They came to the front, and with tears in their eyes, they said, we've had many people come here to speak in the past, but you're the first one that's ever given us any hope. We don't realize maybe the forces that are behind what we're seeing in the riots today. That's why I'm calling for you to stop judging, others to stop judging, to listen to people's pain, to care, to assume responsibility, to forgive, to get to know people, to love the hurting enough to give your time, to stop biting into the fruit of outrage and anger. Mercy and honesty by love is going to be the only way that we're going to walk this thing out. I've asked the local police department to think about and work on an avenue of communication whereby people could feel free to come to us without feeling that they have to come to the place of protesting or something worse. They've talked about it, and they're going to visit with one another some more about it, and I'm going to ask the same thing of this body. The mayor has informed me that you have a picnic yearly, and you invite the college students to come, many of them are black, and you have other issues on your agenda, I think that needs to be communicated far more than it is so people know it, because a lot of folks don't know it. Maybe people that have lived here for 10 years don't know it. Can there be some kind of a liaison? I'd like to volunteer to do that, but I don't think I've got the wherewithal anymore to do it. To come to you, to come to someone and talk to them. This is going to take a generation to change. Thank you for allowing me to take some extra time.
You're welcome, Mr. Hardica. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 5 on the agenda. This is the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or a citizen of the City of Virginia requests that one of these items be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval and corrections of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on June 9th, 2020. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution Number 20-012, the schedule of bills. Item 5.3, approve the following budgeted travel requests for the Police Department. 5.3A, Jason Picard to attend Fundamental of Report Writing. It's an online webinar at a cost of $125. Item 5.3B, Assistant Chief Chad Nicola to attend the MFF Command Training scheduled for June 24th, 2020 in Carlton, Minnesota at no cost. And then item 5.4, the final item on the consent agenda, is approve the temporary liquor license for the Friends of the Greenhouse for the Brewfest scheduled for August 22nd, 2020 at Alcott Park. These are the consent items being presented today, and I'm looking for a motion from the council.
Also move the consent agenda, Mayor.
Support.
Councilor Bearable moves the consent agenda, supported by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Okay, could we rescind this? We got an updated agenda here under item 5.5, and that was given to me, and I was remiss in, so we had item 5.5 was added earlier today, is to approve the transient merchant license for Berry Lane doing business as B Street Tacos contingent upon the submission of the required paperwork. Does that motion still stand for approval?
Yeah, I'll also make that motion with the addition.
Okay, thank you, and the support continues from Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson?
I'd like to poll 5.4 for a few questions, please.
Okay, Councilor Johnson requests that item 5.4 be removed from the agenda for further discussion. Do we have a motion to approve 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.5? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.4, approve the temporary liquor license for the Friends of the Greenhouse for the Brewfest on October 22nd, 2020 at the Alcott Park. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add an addendum to that, they are adhering to the appropriate COVID precautions at that time. The Brewfest the last several years has been hundreds and hundreds of people, and I want the committee to understand that we as a city will still be holding to whatever it is on August 22nd. If it's 250 people, the city will, I mean, for those kinds of engagements, I want to just make sure they don't have any expectations that there'll be no rules.
Right now,
We'll get an answer. Pam, we have our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber, who will be responding to Councilor Johnson's request.
Brian Silber, Park and Recreation Director and member of the Brewfest Committee. We are definitely going to be complying with all the governor's recommendations and orders. In fact, currently what we are looking at doing For outdoor gatherings, you are allowed to have 250 people. We are looking at selling a maximum of 200 tickets. As Councilor Johnson pointed out, we've had a whole lot more than that there in the past. So what we're going to be doing this year is dividing Brewfest into two different ticket options, an afternoon Brewfest or an evening Brewfest. So we will be able to have a total of 400 tickets that are sold to Brewfest this year. We're expecting those tickets to go pretty quickly because this will be one of the only events going on in the area. We are also going to be expanding the perimeter of the Brewfest area. Last year, it was right around the fountain, and we encouraged everybody to gather together and mingle. This year, we are going to be spreading everybody out and encouraging them to be socially distant. Rather than having all of the vendors right up on the fountain, they're going to be away from the fountain to promote that social distancing. So the committee is definitely taking into consideration any and all of the governor's guidelines, and we will even have a refund policy for those who may have purchased tickets and then day of realize that they are not physically well enough to come, so that they can recoup their money and we could use that ticket for somebody else who did not purchase a ticket ahead of time.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that clarification. I would move item 5.4.
Okay, after an explanation from our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber, with respect to this request, Councilor Johnson moves to approve item 5.4, which is the temporary liquor license for the Friends of the Greenhouse for Brewfest on August 22nd, 2020 at Alcott Park. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, appearances. We have 2 appearances scheduled for the council meeting this evening. The first is item 6.1, Josie Olson from the Minnesota Department of Transportation to discuss the road closures related to road work at the intersection of Highway 53 and 12th Avenue and Highway 53 and 13th. So, Josie, welcome. This is a long-awaited project, and I think we may have some questions about how you're rerouting the traffic, but based on the coffee and conversations, we're pretty well apprised of that. So welcome to City Council, and I'm sure you'll get this done within the next 2 weeks. Josie, welcome.
That would be nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Josie Olson. I work for MnDOT out of District 1 in Duluth. I'm a project manager, and I'm here tonight to talk about the intersection improvements that we have at 12th Avenue and 13th Street on Highway 53. The purpose of this project is to lower the crash rates and improve safety at the intersections of Highway 53 with 13th Street and 12th Avenue North in Virginia. And the reason why we're doing this is these 2 intersections are high crash rate intersections. And just to give everybody who's not familiar with the project a little bit of background on what exactly we're doing, is we're replacing the existing signal systems at both of those intersections. And with that will be brand new signals. We're adding emergency vehicle preemption, so that means that the little flashing lights that you see to preempt anytime that there's an emergency vehicle coming. And along with that, away from those 2 intersections, there'll be some minor work at 2nd Avenue, but it'll be off the highway. It's just in the cabinet off the highway. That won't have any effect on, it shouldn't have any effect on traffic. It's just for interconnection purposes of the 3 signals along our highway. We're also at the 2 intersections that I talked about. We're adding offset turn lanes at each of those intersections, and that's meant, we're adding left turn lanes into the median, and that's meant to offset traffic away from, offset turning traffic away from through traffic. So we're just, we're moving those turning vehicles away from the higher speed traffic that's continuing through on Highway 53, and that also serves to bring the vehicles that are turning so that they create a better sight distance for people who are also turning, so that you don't have any, or you have a reduction in the amount of conflicts or people that turn into vehicles that are continuing straight through the intersection. Just helps them to see a little bit better. We are bringing curb ramps into compliance at each of the intersections and improving drainage conditions that are there. So that gives a little bit of just a background on what exactly we're doing. And on to construction, our schedule is that the construction is planned for starting July 6th, and it's expected to continue into the fall. The contractor that has been awarded the job is KGM, and we are meeting with the contractor tomorrow. Our construction folks are meeting with them tomorrow to discuss the schedule, and we'll have a pre-construction meeting next week to discuss details about how they are staging the construction, staging the project work. Now on to traffic impacts. We went through a couple weeks ago, and we had a meeting that a few people were at, Britt was at, that we went through a communication plan. And so I printed off a few of the flyers and that I'll leave here that have project facts. It has our project website address, it has my contact information, it has contact information for the project engineer. And then also on the back, it has diagrams for every phase of the project and staging of the traffic impacts. There will be actually 6 project stages where the contractor will pick up and move work from one intersection to the next. So it's difficult to say at this point because the contractor hasn't told us where exactly they're starting. But it gives you an idea of how traffic is expected to be handled each time one intersection is being worked on. What we have put into the contract is that only one intersection can be worked on or can be closed at a time. So we're not going to have both 13th Street and 12th Avenue closed at the same time. It's only one. And I lost my place here. Through traffic, on Highway 53, people traveling through are not going to be, they're not going to be detoured. That traffic will remain uninhibited. There will be lane closures to perform the work on both the median side and on the through lane side. So travelers can expect delays. As I said, one intersection will close at a time, and then how we'll handle traffic for each intersection that's closed is local detours. And like I said, that's on the flyer, on the back side of the flyer. So how can people get information during the project and about how traffic is going to be impacted? For businesses, the Laurentian Chamber has agreed to publish our weekly or bi-weekly construction updates with an email blast. So they're going to sign up for the email blast that we have, and they'll duplicate that. So they'll send out the email blast that we send out to alert businesses that are already signed up for the chamber's communication. People can also go onto our website and sign up for email updates. If you like social media and you like Facebook and Twitter, we have both of those that we keep up to date. Our Facebook and Twitter are both, our Facebook group is min.northeast. That's also our Twitter handle. But for those folks who don't want to do email or social media, we're also, we got commitment from Hometown Focus to publish our updates. And then we also have press releases that we'll do in the beginning of the project, just to let folks know that this project is coming up and to expect to start seeing traffic delays and traffic impacts. We'll send that out, and anybody can pick that up, so your local TV stations and the Mesabi Daily News could pick that up. So again, general project information, my contact is on the flyer. Neil Schrader is the project engineer. He is the one to contact for construction-related issues. And now I would like to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Josie. This is a long-awaited project, so we're glad that it's beginning, and this might be a good time because of the minimum amount of traffic is minimized a little bit because of this pandemic. But Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just trying to get your Facebook page shared on our Facebook page real quick. You said the time frame is July 6th. I had the experience of trying to get to the dollar store today with what's going on with Mountain Iron Drive. Have you been coordinating with them to make sure that there's access to that particular part?
So we were careful not to have any of the signed local detours utilize Mountain Iron Drive. We are utilizing 6th, going underneath the 6th Avenue Bridge and going around that way for closures at the 12th Avenue intersection. We're not pushing people over towards the Menards area and back around that way. We don't want, what we don't want is for people to be using the roadway when there's obviously a conflict during construction. And then we also don't want to push traffic onto their brand-new road.
I guess, Matt, do you know, because today I had to go behind Adventures to get in, so what my concern is if the 13th Street intersection is closed and Mountain Iron Drive is unavailable, there is almost no way to get to those Mountain Iron businesses there. So that's what I want to, I just want to make sure that you all are having that conversation about coming from the south into those Mountain Iron businesses next to Menards, because right now you can't get there except for, I'm guessing it's private property. And I know that's not your deal, but I'm saying when we get to that point, when you are closing our intersections, I want to make sure that folks can safely get over there.
Yep, and what we did for when we are working on the Mountain Iron Drive side, we did have to push traffic over towards Dairy Queen and around that way. We wanted to keep folks on the state highways as much as possible, and so we pushed traffic that way.
I appreciate that you've looked at it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Baraboo?
Yeah, hi Josie.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good.
I've been to a number of your meetings over time. I have one question. When you start working on the main portions and you're shifting lanes from one through lane, are you going to do some adjustments? Because I can envision traffic being backed up all the way past Second Avenue. I've seen that happen before when construction was done during the bridge processes. Are you going to adjust those signals so that they kick in more often or less so that the traffic can get through 12th Avenue? Because that's going to be a problem. Unless you're going all the way around with a detour on Second Avenue.
I'm going to ask Alex Peretz to answer that one.
Because that happened during bridge construction when they did that.
Alex,
And Alex Peretz is
Okay.
another project manager at MnDOT that, that
well, come on up, Alex, if you would, please. And please state your name for the record. We have our city clerk on remote, so she needs to take the minutes.
Yep, that's fine. My name's Alex Parrott. As Josie said, I'm a project manager for MnDOT up here in the northern region of
Welcome.
Virginia.
Thank you.
So as far as the signal goes, one thing that Josie didn't mention, so to do the construction, the first phase will be to actually tear out the signals and put up temporary signals when we're doing it. And as we're doing it, the signal heads will get adjusted to the lanes, so they're over the lane on there. And with that, our signals people will be up here to work with the timing. So they will be adjusting as best they can. There's not a guarantee that we're not going to have backups. I mean, I personally worked on our Hoover Road project out here the last 2 years, and I know during certain phases there were some decent backups, but we're able to work with them to optimize it. One thing though, when we're doing this, we will have certain legs closed when those temporary signals are going. So we won't have a full four-legged, so that might help during certain configurations, having less timings to have traffic go because of the detour routes.
My main concern is if things start opening up and stuff is let loose and tourist traffic is starting to, you can see it now, picking up and picking up. And if Canada opens up, that's even going to be more, and they're looking at July 21st to be opening up in Canada. The traffic increases on this highway by 30% during tourist season. And that's a big issue because the amount of traffic that comes through this town is 17,000 plus cars a day without the tourist traffic.
Yep, and like I said, over the last couple of years, we've definitely done a lot of projects through here. And our signals people are very aware of the traffic volumes. This is probably one of the heavier traffic volume areas outside of Duluth, is this stretch of 53 through town here. So, like I said, they'll do their best, but I know it's one of those things. It's everybody likes the sausage, but to make the sausage is sometimes a little more challenging on there.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, very much. Councillor Beyondich, do you have any questions or comments for the Minnesota Department of Transportation with respect to this intersection schedule for our reconstruction?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other councilors have any other questions before we move to the next item on the agenda? Councillor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Josie, you and Alex came to us, was it in January or February, out at Hoover Road? Remember that, Charlie, and the mayor? We were there.
Yep.
And I remember saying to you, because you were talking about how many cars travel down past Second Avenue going north. And then I said, what is happening when it's opening fishing season? Didn't you say about 7,500 cars go through there a day?
I think it's more.
More than
Like
75, eh?
around 10,000, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you had that presentation, we wondered, when is it gonna, well, it seemed to go really fast from when you guys were here. Now it's gonna start. So we're ready.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want the Larry the Cable Guy scenario. Get her done, that's all we're asking. Okay, Josie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. We'll get that information from the podium and distribute that appropriately to communicate as much as we can to the public about this project.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Item number 6.2 on the agenda under appearances, we have patiently waiting in the back room, Amber Johnson of the Downtown Dance Studio is here to request to block off the 100 block of Chestnut Street for a dance recital. That sounds exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. So due to COVID, we obviously had to postpone our recital that we usually have at the beginning of June. And we realized that having an indoor venue with our usual audience members was not going to happen. So we are looking to request on Sunday, August 23rd, that the 100 block of Chestnut Street be sectioned off for our outdoor recital option, to allow for the proper setup and takedown of a small staging area that we're setting up. We would like to request from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. that this be sectioned off. The recital itself would be about 3 hours to allow for families to kind of change over to keep it to a minimum and to keep it spread out. We would also be offering a live streaming option so that more people can stay at home and, then they don't have to worry about being out in public. We would adhere to the COVID guidelines of wearing, the audience members wearing masks, staying 6 feet apart, staying spread out, or whatever needs to happen as that time happens. We would also request that the music that gets played on Chestnut Street be turned off during this time so that ours is the one that can be featured. We would only plan on canceling if there was lightning, because even if it rains, the show must go on, and we would be taking precautions to keep the dancers safe if it rains. So thank you guys for considering this creative alternative to our recital.
And thank you. This 100 blocks has been a popular place to shut down for certain events. The Beanbag Tournament, which happens every year, that's the car show. That's exciting. So, and this is another new event for us to go. So thank you for coming forward and making that request.
Yeah,
We will stand for questions. Anybody have any questions or comments or want to make a motion? Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, just a quick question. Are you going to need help from our Public Works for barricades and stuff? I imagine you do. Is that a request too that you have of us?
Yes.
Okay, just so we know that.
Okay, very good. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to give a shout out to my little sister who's sitting in the back who helps Amber.
Yes, my right-hand
I just couldn't
lady.
leave her that load. But I will make a motion to direct city staff to work with the Downtown Dance Studio with appropriate, whatever they need to make it happen and make sure the music's unplugged that day.
Okay, motion by Counselor Johnson to approve the request by Amber Johnson from the Downtown Dance Studio to block off the 100 block of Chestnut Street for a dance recital on Sunday, August the 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and to work with the city staff in order to help accommodate any barricades, any assistance, in-kind service we can provide to accomplish that goal and objective. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Freely. Any further discussion? Counselor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Having your music on our main street, we need that to bring back the life that's here. It's pretty quiet down our main street on Sundays. That'll be good. We talked about a tug of war, didn't they, on?
Well, I don't think the dance recital is going to incorporate a tug of war, but.
No. But
Well,
That
I
may
mean, it
happen at a
depends on
later
how
time.
feisty the parents are, so.
very good. We'll see you
Counselor
then.
Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make sure the motion's flexible enough that if you need earlier than 11, if your plans change, I don't want to limit you exactly to those hours. So I would,
you.
again, work with the staff, and Britt will be amazing to help you with who you need to connect with.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich, any questions or comments? We'll just continue on. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
ready to go. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to item 7 on the agenda, which is unfinished business. This is the second reading for the adoption of a resolution approving the sale and transfer of city property to Essential Health. This is the sale of the hospital. Second reading. We have a resolution in your packet under 7.1. Do I have some council action?
I will
Counselor
move-
Baraboo.
I will move the second reading of the Essentia resolution for sale of the property of $86,100 plus costs.
Motion by Counselor Baraboo to approve the second reading for the resolution for the sale and transfer of the hospital, which is city property, to Essentia Health. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just really wanted to reiterate the amount of time that the staff and the council have spent on getting the absolute best deal we can on this. Mine will be a hesitant yes, but I cannot see any other way forward for the city when it comes to the property and running of the hospital. So I will reluctantly be supporting the second reading of this. And then the question, this is the final reading also. So once if we finalize this today, the paperwork will start, and then however long it takes before the hospital is officially private property.
I see. Thank you. Any further discussion? Do we have Counselor Beyondich on the phone? Counselor Beyondich, I don't know if you heard the motion. There was a motion on the floor to approve the resolution under 7.1 for the sale and transfer of the city property, which is the hospital to Essentia Health. This is the second reading. Any questions or comments?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Friedli.
Does this include the right of first refusal?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
That contract includes that as well, Counselor
Thank
Friedli.
you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Am on the line? Okay. We're having a little delay, try to get our city clerk back on the Zoom and our remote access for city councilor Beyondich. Okay, Councilor Beyondich, any further questions or concerns with respect to that? We've taken a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We're looking for your vote.
I said aye. Can
Okay, yes,
hear now?
yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, move to item 8, which is discussion items. Item 8.1 is adopt a resolution for a change order for the Ewens Field demolition in order to remove an old irrigation system from the border of our miners' site. And we have, to explain the request for this, our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber. Brian?
Good evening, council. As you remember, a few weeks ago, you approved us having up to a $50,000 limit for change orders that were time-sensitive and an emergency. This is not one of those change orders. This would fall under category number 2 of the types of change orders which we have, which is a owner-requested change order. As we got into this project, we discovered that there were 2 structures on the north end of the property that were part of an old irrigation system that have been abandoned. They were not part of our civil drawings because we didn't really know that they were there, so they were not part of the job to be done. So what I did was I requested a price to have these structures removed, and then we decided to weigh whether or not it would be in our best interest to have our current contractor remove them via a change order, have staff remove them at a future time, or include them as part of a future project. With the pricing that came back of $400, it's almost a no-brainer that we want to have the contractor go ahead and do this and approve this change order at this point. So I will open it up to any other questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Councilor Johnson?
Not a question. I will move the change order for the Ewen Fields redevelopment MEC site improvements for
Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Thank you. Any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 8.2 is adopt a resolution to make application for and accept funds from the IRRR Taconite Area Community Relief Grant Program.
So moved.
Moved for approval by Councilor Freely. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Can we have a brief summary for the general public of what this grant will be going for?
This is coming from VITA. VITA had developed the Downtown Commercial Rehabilitation Program. This is the second, when they originally developed the Downtown Commercial Rehabilitation Program, they did that as a pilot project through IRRB. IRRB has seen our success and now taken that pilot project into an area-wide grant program, which is now the Taconite Area Community Relief Grant Program. And so now VITA would like the opportunity to apply again for a second round of funding for the downtown program.
Thank you, Britt.
Yeah, and the difference here is that the pilot project was specific to Virginia. Now this opens up as a competitive request for these fundings, so it's important that we have that mechanism in place to allow VITA to apply. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Were these was it the 4-to-1 match on this, and then we could apply up to $400,000, is that correct?
That is correct. It's a 1-4 match.
And I know I think I was at one of the meetings, and I had a request maybe that it be a little bit different pot, that maybe VITA has that discussion about, because the specific downtown VITA was basically for construction, and this COVID relief fund that I think DEED got it to the IRRB. I think it came from DEED, if I'm not mistaken. It was awarded by DEED. And those guidelines were a little bit more loosened about what they actually could utilize the money for. And currently, as it stands right now, the IRRB, with some of those funds, is offering $40,000, up to $40,000 loans at a 2% interest rate to businesses. So if a business is interested, they can certainly hop on the IRRB website for that. But as VITA moves forward, I would like them to consider what types of funding, and maybe not just construction and code issues, that those dollars could be utilized for and applied for.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. The motion on the floor is to motion to approve, and there's support for the resolution for us to make application for this IRRR Taconite Area Community Relief Grant Program, with some concerns from Councilor Paulson for VITA to take a look at, mechanisms which how those funds are going to be expended if we get approved for that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item 8.3, adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the Community Development Block Grant Funding, which is CDBG. And we're asking for additional funding for the purpose of developing our community, not just in the downtown area.
No, this is the CARES Act funding that's released through CDBG. And so we are seeking funds to assist our ambulance, actually, to prepare with equipment that would treat COVID-related type illnesses.
Okay, this is money that was expended to CDBG for COVID-related issues, and we want to apply for that, particularly through our EMS program. Okay, thank you. Looking for action from the council.
I'll move the resolution authorizing the submission and application for CBDG funding.
Moved by Councilor Johnson to approve item 8.3, which is the adopt the resolution authorizing the submission and application for the Community Development Block Grant funding related to COVID. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Freely. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.4 is adopt a resolution accepting donations for the Alcott Park fountain.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Freely. Is there support? Support by Councilor Barnzelli. Further discussion. This money that we accept goes into a special account for the management and the maintenance of the Alcott Park fountain, correct? Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor
I
Bearable.
just got a question, Mayor. We had some vandalism up there. Do we have the cameras? Have they ever been installed up there? I didn't. We need to put those cameras in. I don't care where we spend or what we do.
Have cameras up there.
We do?
We do. We are going to get better ones, but we do have cameras right now.
Well, why are we wasting our money on cheap cameras? Put some good ones up there to have visual stuff, because that's too expensive.
We had to get Wi-Fi up there. That's part of the Wi-Fi project for the city.
Yeah, it's part of our Wi-Fi funding project. Yeah.
We do have cameras strategically located within the trees, actually, so they're hidden.
Well, that's okay. I didn't want to know that portion of it. I
Well,
just
now
wanted to make
everybody
sure.
knows.
Not everybody knows they're in the trees, but
But the community spent too much money and the donations not to have cameras up there that are viable. So
and
that's all,
unfortunately,
that's my point.
none of the cameras in the city are monitored 24/7, so we usually find the vandalism and then find out who it was after the fact.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Councilor Bearable. Councilor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Charlie, these are cameras, but they're not the top of the line, and I think that's what, we're getting better ones. We took them out of another building, I guess, is where it came from. They should be able to see whatever's going on out there.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and supported to adopt the resolution accepting donations for the Alcott Park fountain. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.5, adopt a resolution to accept donation for the corporate employee giving programs. If we could get a little explanation for the general public's purposes, what this is. Do we know what the corporate employee giving program is?
Somebody through AT&T is donating money to the city for youth programs.
They're donating to who?
The city for youth programs.
Oh, okay.
Don't get to
okay.
know who it is.
Okay.
We just get to know that it comes
It's
from
a
AT&T.
corporate, it's like a corporate company is giving a donation to the city for some youth programs.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking for action on item
moved.
8.5.
I'll move to approve the resolution for in the amount of $12 being donated from AT&T to the city of Virginia.
Moved by Counselor
Support.
Paulson and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.6, adopt a resolution accepting donations for the fire safety education program.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
All support.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.7, and Pamela, I ask you to chime in if you want. Approve the list of election judges for 2020.
I will move the list.
Councilor Johnson moves to accept approve the list of election judges for 2020. Is there support?
All support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Item 8.8, approve pay estimate number 1 for the public library entrance and Pocket Park, which is the combination program that we've had, to Max Grade Construction in the amount of $82,969.68.
I will move the pay estimate number 1.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve pay estimate number 1 to Max Grade Construction in the amount of $82,969.68 for the public library entrance and the Pocket Park. Is there support? Is there support?
All support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question regarding the Pocket Park, and maybe Matt can address that. I haven't seen them working on it this last, I would say, maybe week and a half, and maybe just give us a status update.
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Matt?
So we're trying to work out their schedules with some of their subs. So the rocks are in there, as you've seen. The grading is pretty well done. They are working on finishing up the concrete at the library, and then they plan on coming over and forming up the sidewalk over at the Pocket Park. So it's taking them a little longer than they expected. They had some delays on some material delivery for the library, but we've been meeting with them weekly, and they are planning in the next week or two to get in there and finish it.
The siding looks fantastic, so we're doing, that part is great.
Right.
Thank you, Matt, for that.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.9, approve pay estimate number 1 for the Ewan Stadium demolition to Cross Anderson in the amount of $129,762.79.
Also move that, Mayor.
Councilor Bearable moves to approve the payment estimate to Cross Anderson for the Ewens Field Stadium demolition in the amount of $129,762.79, supported by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Bearable.
I just appreciate Cross Anderson working with the city to get that price down from the original. So Bob and Pat, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't believe how much is going on around there. That's pretty amazing to me. I do have a question, though, on the goalposts. Are those, is the school removing those goalposts, or is that an issue or a non-issue?
They have the option. Maybe Bob Fitzgerald from Cross Anderson, do you have any information regarding Councilor Paulson's request regarding the goalposts?
Well, thank you, Councilor Paulson, for the question. I'm just going to play traffic cop, and I'm going to direct it to Carl, who's on the Zoom. So, Carl, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm here. Those goalposts are a non-issue, if you guys can hear me. So they'll get taken care of. But to address Pamela, your question, the school does have the option. If they want to take those, they can take them. They don't have a lot of time to take them, though.
So not to move the goalpost here, but when will they be knocked down?
I would assume in the next couple weeks they're going to start mass grading on that area, so they'll remove those goalposts at that time.
Thank you, Carl.
Unlike the goalposts, the bleachers were removed immediately. So thank you. I threw that out there because I'm still have some angst about that. Bob?
Absolutely, and thank you for that, Mayor. What we'll do is we will communicate with the school district and determine when that date will be to make sure that they're gone in a timely manner, so it doesn't interrupt anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else on that, Councilor Paulson? Very good. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Johnson.
Do we know how many pay estimates there will be for that site demolition? We're on number 1.
Yeah, this is the stadium demolition, the 144 and change. So there should be just one more after this, and that'll be a final. We'd be in good shape.
Thank you, that's a good answer.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved and supported to approve pay estimate estimate number 1 to Carl Anderson in the amount of $129,762.79. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.10, adopt the resolution for final payment number 5 for the 12th Avenue Improvement Project to Mesaba Bituminous in the amount of $35,896.61. And Matt, do you have any information about that? Matt Reed, our from SCH, our engineer of record.
Hi, good evening again. No, I don't have any information other than what's in your packet. This is just a final application for payment. We discussed this actually a couple months ago, several meetings ago. This is just, we got all the paperwork now and we're ready to close the project out, so I can answer any questions you might have.
No, thank you. I just like the word final in that resolution, so the final payment. Okay, thank you. Counselor
I
Bearable?
just have one question, Matt. So that short section that's like a half a block, that's the state's responsibility from those lights? Because that hasn't been done, so that's the state's
Yep,
responsibility?
they're gonna pick that up this summer with the project that Josie was here about.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Yep.
I'll move the resolution forward.
Thank you, Matt. A motion by Counselor Paulson to move this resolution, the resolution forward for the adoption of the final payment number 5 for the 12th Avenue Improvement Project to Mesaba Bituminous in the amount of $35,896.61. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 8.11, adopt a resolution for additional compensation for professional services to SEH for the Bailey's Lake Trail Improvement Project. Again, Matt Reed, once again. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. This is assuming that the Bailey Lake Trail project moves ahead in the subsequent item. But what you have in front of you in the packet is agreement for professional services, and there's a couple of different parts in there. The first part, or the first two parts, sorry, I'm just trying to get it open here. Here we go. The first part, we had some additional work that we had to do when we were doing the design that we did not have as part of our original contract. Originally, we assumed that the trail, the existing trail, was all on city property. As it turns out, once we got into it and got researching it, that wasn't the case. So we ended up having to do some easement documentation, some research, and pull that all together. And so one of the items in here is we're asking for the compensation to do that work. The second part of it is we had to, as we got towards the end of the process, we were working with the staff to try to bring that project down to a level that we could work and phase it in. We talked about this again at the committee of the whole meeting about phasing the project in. And we had a fair amount of work that we had to do to get those plans modified and do some things to be able to bid the project the way we did. And so we're just asking for compensation for that additional work, excuse me, as well. And then the last item is for, as I was saying, so the first two items are work already done. The last item is for our services for construction administration and observation as the project moves forward from now until probably maybe this fall or next spring, whenever it gets finally completed. And that is an hourly not to exceed amount that we are anticipating we're going to need to be out in the field for the work. It should be, or it is, within the project's current budget with all of that, and Britt can confirm that if I'm mistaken, but it's all within the current project budget. So I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any councilor have any questions with respect for this resolution for the compensation of additional services for the SCH regarding the Bailey's Lake Improvement Project? Okay, looking for a motion to adopt the resolution to approve.
I'll move the resolution.
Councilor Johnson moves the resolution for approval. Is
I'll
there
support.
support? Support by Councilor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
I have questions about the project. If I just want to, after the vote, they're not related to the vote.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Thank again. Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I got an email from a resident, and I forwarded it to Britt and Brian, about some of the, as they're working forward, and maybe you don't have these answers, about the use of the west side, the patios and the entrances and exits during the construction, and how that's going to affect folks using those spaces. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I just would like the staff to be able to answer those questions. The person who emailed me has asked some of the staff there, and they don't know the answers, so I would like to make sure that at some point we are communicating before construction starts to the residents of those 3 buildings, what their access will be to the patios and to the lake walk and timeframes and stuff like that. And so I wanted to bring that up for the 3 of you, because Brian, I'm guessing you're going to be kind of doing that, and even if we can get an information sheet together to get down to those folks, so we're going to be impacting their lives pretty significantly for a couple months. So if you all would work together and we can get those down to those buildings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Johnson. Okay, we'll move to item 9, which are committee reports. The 9.1, the committee, the whole meeting that was held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. And I'll turn this portion of our city council meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bendis. Britt?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda at the committee of the whole meeting on Tuesday, June 16th was a request from Paul Moa People Service regarding the need for a new SCADA computer system for the wastewater treatment plant. The funds for this purchase would come from the city sewer fund. It was moved and supported to approve the purchase of the SCADA computer replacement system for the wastewater treatment plant from In Control in the amount of $19,800.
Also move the resolution on that, Mayor.
Counselor Bearable moves the resolution. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. And this is the adopt the resolution to purchase the SCADA computer system replacement system for the wastewater treatment plant from In Control in the amount of $19,800. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing, Counselor Johnson.
This is a very specific computer system. That's why the price is so high, is that it's meant for one thing and one thing only over there.
And it's one we really don't want to go down.
No, we don't want a broken plant.
We want it to run, yes.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Matt Reed of SCH gave an update on the bids that were received for the Bailey's Lake Trail improvements. We received only 1 bid, and at that meeting, Mr. Reed noted that the funds received by the city allow for approval of the base bid plus alternate 1, which is the construction of the new pier. It was moved and supported to approve awarding the Bailey's Lake Trail Improvement Project base bid and alternate 1 to George Begalis and Sons. And I do need to note that the base bid was in the amount of $637,309.65, and the alternate 1 was $62,000 for a total project award of $699,309.65. And again, this is all within the budgeted.
Counselor Johnson?
I will move the total amount that Britt said that I didn't write down of $699 for,
$699,309.65.
thank you for the base bid and the bid alternate.
Counselor Johnson moves that base bid and alternate number 1.
All support, Mayor.
Begalis and Sons, supported by Counselor Bearable. And this would be a total amount of $699,309.65. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
We had received a letter from the Biosolids Disposal Site Authority regarding the request from the City of Evelyn to use the City of Virginia's permitted biosolids land application site for dumping, and we requested to discuss it at this meeting. I have invited Tim Satrang from the City of Mountain Iron and the chairperson of the Biosolids Disposal Site Authority here to the meeting today.
Thank you for your patience in waiting. It's Tim, would you please announce your first and last name for the record, and welcome.
Tim Satrang. I am an employee of the City of Mountain Iron. I'm the current chair of the Biosolids Authority.
Good evening.
Good evening. I can give you an explanation of what's going on. So the MPCA has some rules set up. They regulate our land application sites. And one of the rules is when a site has an accumulation of phosphorus, along with other standards, and it hits a 200 parts per million, we have to stop applying. And actually, it happened to Evelyn, it happened to some of your property in Virginia's, and it happened to some of Gilbert's. And we're in the process of trying to come up with a phosphorus management plan, and we're sort of unique amongst the rest of the community or the rest of the state. We have nothing but iron spoils around here, which are typically acidic, and I think acidic soils has a tendency to lock up phosphorus along with some of the chemicals we use in our wastewater treatment plants. So in doing so, we need to do a study, we need to do some sampling, and unfortunately, they don't account for the time that we need to get rid of our biosolids in our communities. Virginia has some excess properties. The only way that this can happen is if Virginia would accept the biosolids. Your Type 4 operator would have to submit a report to the MPCA. There's a lifetime accumulation of metals that need to be calculated, that your Type 4 operators have that on record, and they would have to work with the EVLIS Type 4 biosolid or Type 4 land application operator. So it would be your choice. It's properties. It's owned by the Biosolids Authority, but it's permitted per community. And you guys are the only ones right now that have the property available for this to happen. We've accepted some of the biosolids in Mountain Iron, but we ran it through and did a different technique. We ran some of it through our facility, but it's just so intense that it would be difficult to do that. So if there's I could make this really difficult to follow, or I'm not sure if I'm getting my point across.
I think you are. Yeah, it makes it a lot clearer for us based on the information that we received at our committee of the whole meeting. So the request by Evelyn to do this, is this on a temporary basis for a finite amount of time?
This would be for this cropping year, is what they consider it. The cropping year goes from September 1st to August 31st. So it would be just for the remaining of the summer.
Very good.
To the end of, but there would be some expenses incurred that the city of Virginia would have to pay your contract operator to do, and the city of Evelyn has agreed to take on those costs.
Okay, very good.
I'm just the messenger here also.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you just stay just for a moment, if you stand for any questions you might have. Do we have any questions with respect to that? Councilor Friedlieb.
Just out of curiosity, so the lands that have exceeded those phosphorus standards, I'm assuming that over time that dissipates and they can be eventually reused or reapplicated, or is it now they're done for forever?
No. They're done for forever if they make a heavy metal peak. If they hit their limits of heavy metal, then they're done. This one here, I think it's an interesting case. I think the MPCA is looking at this as interested in what we're going to do here. I do think what we base the land application, the volume is kind of based on what crops we grow. We're at a disadvantage of living here in the Great Lakes region. We have a very small growing year. We can't grow row crops, and we don't have these crops that have these high yield phosphorus or nutrient using plants. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some extensive sampling to make sure that we can prove that the phosphorus isn't mobile, it's not moving off-site. It typically doesn't move off-site. Some of the ways it can do that is by moving with soils and erosions. So what we need to put this in a study, submit this, and part of it has been submitted, and see what their recommendations are. So we base our loading on nitrogen, and sometimes we don't consider the crops and what that does for the accumulation of phosphorus. And so over the course of the years, that older section has built up some phosphorus that we need to determine how we can pick that up through plant uptakes.
Yeah, I guess I ask that if we're affording you that opportunity, could we exceed, I mean, will we eventually run out of land to apply to, or?
This would be a one-time application. The city of Leavenworth has a liquid biosolids. You have a cake solid in the city of Virginia. So this would be about, I mean, you have a 20-some percent solids. This would be a 3% solid. So this would be, you know, you're taking on the responsibility. I'm not trying to make this light, but it's a one-time application. It has been done before between the communities. Mr. Hennis asked me to bring it to your attention.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Baraboo?
Yeah, I've got to ask you this question. My thought on this, we should not absorb any cost on this. We're being good to Evelyn to allow them to do this, because we farm most of our biosolids to the taconite dumps and other stuff, and we don't use that site. We have, what, 68 acres there, I think, or 62? City of Virginia does, or something like that, if I remember correctly. I feel Evelyn should pay any cost, even for our operators, if they have to do their portion of that. We shouldn't have any cost. We're doing them a favor, otherwise they're going to have to find someplace else to put it.
Sure. I agree, and I believe that they've sent that message with me, that they would take on your costs that you accrue to have
Okay,
this
so we
report
probably
submitted.
need to put that in the resolution or motion, that they would absorb the costs. Because we should not have to do any, even though our operator will probably back charge us, they should be paying it. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Satrak.
Yeah, that's, I think we're all more at ease now how that works. It's for 1-year growing season, one-time application. We'll have an agreement put together, the resolution, allowing them to do that if we vote to do so, with them bearing all the costs associated with that 1-year season. So thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Pardon me?
That's just the rest of the summer, correct?
Yeah, so it would be based on a farmer's cropping year, so it would end on October 31st, or August 31st.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Paulson?
Thank you. And so just to explain it a little better, so it's a biosolid land mass, and Evelyn owns a portion of that, Virginia owns a portion of that. And is it a consortium between the Quad Cities?
Yes.
Okay,
So the Biosolids Authority is the city of Evelyn, the city of Gilbert, the city of Mountain Iron, the city of Virginia. And it was put together to manage the properties owned by the authority, and it's put together by concurrent ordinances on all the communities.
and so I think just even for the public's understanding, I think is what I'm trying to get at here is that land was specifically for this intended purpose, and this would be the usage for that.
And the way the rules work is that we just can't throw it on one massive property. Each community, each wastewater facility, each MPDS permit has to manage their own property. So that would be the way we would be able to do this, would be that the Virginia would accept it, they would have to manage it, put on their lifetime accumulation of metals, manage the nutrient loading, and work with the city of Evelyn in doing this.
And then I guess the last question I had in terms of the MPCA, would there be anything to come back potentially? I mean, like you said, it's a very short time, it's a one-time usage. Would there be anything that would potentially come back? And then would that be the sole responsibility of the city of Virginia, or would that be within the authority's jurisdiction?
Well, the Virginia would be responsible for it, and what would happen is that the two operators would work out a procedure on how to pre-sample everything before it is applied to your properties. And so you'll know and everything will be based on those values. So the loading, the nutrients will be based on that, the heavy metal loading, and then they determine on how to set up the vehicle, on how fast it goes, and how to apply it, and how to distribute it on those acreage.
So how much is estimated? Like, is it by tonnage, or how much is an estimated dump between this period of time?
So there's 3 parcels that would be in Virginia's permitted properties. One is in Great Scott Township, and 2 of them are up near the regional landfill. One is an older site, one is a deal that we made with the St. Louis County to swap properties. So I think that they're looking at 15 acres, and that would be, that's the high end, is 15 acres of some properties, and the only ones that would be available would be that new part and up at the regional landfill, or the one in Great Scott. And there's kind of an interesting thing going on too, because they haven't had any nutrients applied to it, and we've harvested crops over a number of years, and especially the new site, there really isn't enough nutrients on those iron spoils up there to grow anything to keep the saplings from coming up. So it's a difficult thing on a farming aspect on keeping this property available. So I actually think there'll be some benefits to get something on those sites. But it'll be just a portion of the properties that you have.
So to kind of just piggyback on what biosolids, the advantage of the biosolids, why they applied, is it does put nutrients back into the ground.
Yes.
And things do grow out of there. So if we have a site that's not growing, this actually may really make the site grow by using Evolus different mixture than what we've got.
We would be able to get more grasses to grow. It would become tighter, and it would choke out some of those brush and saplings and things. So there is a benefit, and it is considered recycling of nutrients. Otherwise, you would burn it or landfill it, and it would not be back into use again.
Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, that's amazing. I've learned that stuff in the last 5 minutes. So do we need a resolution to do this, or do we need to direct staff to work? What's the action step we need to take?
We probably need an agreement between Evolus and us, so maybe direct staff to work with the city of Evolus to come back with an agreement.
And bring it back.
Okay, I will move that we direct city staff to work with Evolus and the Biosolids Disposal Site Authority to come up with an agreement and bring it back for approval in a very timely manner.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support,
Support
Even
by
though-
Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion?
even though it sounds like a pretty crappy job.
I haven't heard that one before.
Gary Youngman. Gary, any
Assuming-
Freelieb. Very good. Thank you. Okay, finally. Okay, any further discussion?
Mayor,
Counselor Bearable.
just one point. I'm assuming that by the time we get this approved in two weeks, they're going to need to apply some of their stuff because they won't have enough storage space, correct? So how are we going to assume it's going to get done? Because I'm assuming they need to apply it.
They're up kind of against the gun right now. They need to get moving on this, but I guess they'll take whatever agreement that you come up with for them. So.
Do we trust, I trust staff to come up with that agreement and give you authority to, in this resolution, to move it forward. I don't think we need to come back in 2 weeks, do we, Mayor?
Well, we don't have to, but the motion on the floor is to do that.
I would defer to staff if they're comfortable moving forward that way.
Yeah, we do have a great attorney that we could work with and get something drafted.
All right, I would waive the resolution and authorize staff to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Johnson, and the support that you allay will stand as well. Thank you, Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate
Yes,
it.
thanks for coming.
Item number D from the 9.1 was to adopt the resolution to hire Brandon Solom as a single-role EMT for the Virginia Fire Department.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Bearable to hire Brandon Solom as a single-role EMT. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
9.1E was adopt the resolution to hire Chase Evans as a single-role EMT for the Virginia Fire Department.
I will move the resolution.
Resolution moved to approve the hiring of Chase Evans as a single EMT by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
9.1F is adopt the resolution for the St. Louis County All Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I will move the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve the resolution for the St. Louis County All Hazard Mitigation Plan. Is there support? Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
9.1G, and the final item was approve the transfer of land beneath Siegel Boulevard easement, which is the Spectrum property in Midway, for consolidation to ISD 706, or actually it'll be to the new joint school board.
I'll move the transfer of land.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve the transfer of land beneath Siegel Boulevard easement, Spectrum property, consolidation to IDS School District Number 706. Is there support?
All support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. Is there any background information on this or what this is?
Yeah, it was in the packet. It's the
I'm
road.
in the packet, but I'm not.
Yeah, it
maybe I'm
looks like a
missing it.
weird shaped map. The easement that was Spectrum, that was Siegel Boulevard, when Vita deeded back the properties to the city of Virginia, for some reason they kept the easement. So,
The reason I'm asking is we have a VEDA special meeting tomorrow morning, and I just want to make sure that this, so with us including this, that would be inclusive to where they're going to go with their lease or however they're going to work
Yep,
that.
this is one step that they needed. They needed approval from us that the easement can go with the property.
Okay, I just hadn't heard it called that name before.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for asking. It is part of the whole land transfer.
So once this is done, then it should be.
Then Virginia's
it's
out of it.
Buttoned up for
Yep, Virginia's out of it.
side.
It's
Okay.
on VEDA's shoulders now, and
Thank you.
we're done.
And
Thank you.
we reap a little benefit from it as well.
We weren't planning to, but we
We're
did.
good. Then we plan to, so very good. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 9.2, which is the Building and Grounds Committee meeting that was held on January 17th, 2020. 9.2A is the review of the request from a resident for a basketball court to be placed on city property. And the Building and Grounds Chairman is Counselor Barnzelli, with the other member being Counselor Freelieb. Would either one of you like to give a report with respect to this request based on your recommendation from Building and Grounds? Counselor Freelieb?
What we had gotten documented to us was that the Park and Rec Commission had denied the variance, but had made a suggestion that maybe the resident could then purchase the lot and property from the city of Virginia to build that basketball court. After discussion with Engineer Hennis, Administrator Britzy Bennis, it was indicated that the city has limited lands, obviously, and this is park designated land. And so it was suggested that it may not be in the best interest of the city to give up park designated land within the city limits for private use. And it also would entail the necessity for a public hearing in the event that other people may have an interest in that property as well. So it was determined, I think, in a consensus that it would probably be in the best interest for the city to maintain that park property, but to think in terms of potentially setting aside or budgeting accordingly in the near future with available funding to designate a basketball court to be built for that neighborhood up in Fairview, since it seems to be an appropriate spot to have one. So that's where we ended that conversation.
Thank you. So the request from the resident was for the resident to be able to build a basketball court at his own expense onto the city-owned property. He's looking for approval from Building and Grounds to do that. And what was your recommendation? To deny the request. Okay, very good. That is the motion on the floor as a request that comes from Building and Grounds. And what is the council's action step on this issue?
I don't know that I would put that in a motion form. I mean, I'm open to any of suggestions. I don't know that we would want to sell a portion of that property. There's already been a determination by the commission to not provide them a variance. From my perspective, I guess, you know, knowing the resident, there's nobody that's more appropriate for having a basketball court afforded to them and that family in that region. But I also think that it would be in the best interest of the city to have that availed publicly as well. And then that's not to say that the resident wouldn't allow that to be availed to people publicly, but from my perspective, I think that that would be a great place to have a basketball court that would serve the purposes of that, that neighborhood. But I don't know exactly how to go about doing that to allow him to do that without the city giving up a portion of very limited park property that we have the ownership of at this point in time. But I'm open to suggestions from other councilors or discussion of said property.
We could table the request and bring that back to, for our Park and Rec Director, the resident, and our city staff, or whoever's designated, to work with, toward a goal and objective of maybe putting a basketball court up, or whether it be from a city park perspective, or whatever, because it's designated park. So we could table that and then allow city staff to work with the resident and determine whether or not one can be built.
And I would go so far as to make a motion to allow city staff to further that conversation and to figure out a way that that could be accomplished, whether by a collaborative effort between that resident and the city, and/or the city doing it in some other fashion. But I think it's an appropriate spot for that type of recreational facility to be availed to that neighborhood.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Freely to direct staff to work with the resident, and supported by Councilor Barnzelli.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion?
Mayor,
Councilor Barnzelli.
the city I didn't hear where they were, in that area, the city would put up a basketball court, not in his yard, right? Or behind him. And the concern was of the engineering, that high power line that's overhead. I don't know if basketballs can go that high unless they shoot them out of a cannon.
I think the motion is to have staff work with it to find the appropriate method in which to accomplish the putting it up there based on all the requirements set forth in engineering. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I just Googled the address because I guess I was trying to figure out exactly where this is. How far is this from the Northside Park? Is it far?
Yeah, this is up in the Fairview edition.
I'm talking the distance between where they want it located versus where the park is. On
Less than a half mile, so less than a 10-minute walk.
Okay. Which but we're currently maintaining that, because that is a basketball court there, correct? The Northside Park does?
There is an area that is recognized to attempt to play basketball on in the North Side Park. It needs significant upgrades.
You're talking about Jefferson?
Yes, Jefferson.
Thank you.
Maybe would that be something potentially that could be looked into since it's already in a park setting?
And that is something that the Park and Rec Commission would like to see us do, is rather than just start building new, is taking care of what we already have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Counselor Paulson. So it's moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 10, Commission Liaison and Department Head Reports. Does any city councilor have a report that they want to give to the council this evening? Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just need to follow up with what 2 weeks ago I had made a promise to listen, and I appreciate Mr. Hardicka coming this evening and sharing his point of view. And I want to assure the members of the council and the rest of the general public that I really have been listening over the last 2 weeks. I have listened to those who do not see racism as a problem in northern Minnesota. I have listened to those who are afraid to discuss racism and want not to talk or listen. I have listened to those who have made some assumptions about Logan's stories and have assumed it happened locally. Logan's bumper issue did not happen on the Iron Range. I listened to law enforcement that had concerns about the generalization of where Logan's story happened and about who was involved. Again, this did not happen locally, and I apologize for not being clear and causing those assumptions. I am truly sorry about that. I have listened to folks tell me of the kindness and professionalism of local law enforcement during their many interactions. I have listened to the frustrations of many minorities about being treated differently based on sexual orientation, heritage, color, and gender. This is very real to them. I continue to listen to people who are willing to continue the conversation. And that was really the point of what I said 2 weeks ago. A point of a promise to listen, but also to have a conversation. But the challenge, as I see it, is that each group, each identity that we are listening to speaks a different language. As I continue to listen, my goal will be to learn the different languages and to listen to hear the meaning of what needs to be better to our community, so that we can come together and be a caring community so that my children can be safe and happy. And I just really want to thank those who have reached out to me, and I will be, one of the things Terry had mentioned was going out. And instead of providing an opportunity for people to come to me, I am seeking out those folks and will continue to do that as long as I need to until we are in a better place. So I appreciate the opportunity to follow up on my promises, and I will promise to continue to listen as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Bearable, do you have a report you'd like to give?
Yeah, I just have a Public Utilities report. Had their Public Utilities Commission meeting yesterday at 3:30, and I attended as liaison. They're looking, and I'll make it real quick here. They're looking at a package boiler update when they start to shut down Southside. They'll be doing a design build project, and there's a meeting actually today on ordering a boiler. They call them pony boilers. They need to reduce sizes of current boilers when Southside goes down because they can't reduce the load enough on these big boilers, so they'll be looking at that. And they've also approved the bid for Lindsay Enterprises to build a new door entrance at the cost of $79,000. They need to build a new one on the 6th Avenue side to make it big enough to get the pony boilers into the area that they're going to put them in. They don't have a way to get in, so that'll be being done. And they're waiting for the MPCA to take the number 9 boiler offline. The coal boiler will be done down the road. They got their audit report and went over that just shortly. I thanked them from our perspective. They got it to us on time for a change. So I did thank them on behalf of the council. Right now, they're running 61,000 pounds of steam per hour with a gas boiler. The other boilers, they can't turn them down enough, so that's what they have to run the gas boiler right now. The bad news is that there's property conversions on Southside. There's still approximately 125 buildings that haven't been converted on Southside. So they've been trying everything from letters to going to the houses to doing stuff because the cutoff date for Southside is October. And so I don't know where that's going to go, but I just want to give you that information. I also, as long as we have Kraus Anderson here, your company came up on this with the MEC project. They need to know, the public utilities, the load expectations you're going to have for whatever you're going to be using, their gas, electricity, whatever you're going to be doing, and they need to know that soon so they can, if they need to bring some more infrastructure in there, they can do that. So I told them I'd be seeing you probably tonight, and I told them I'd pass that information on to you so you can get that done for them and just get it over to them. That's about it. So you might want to talk to Greg French, their manager, about that and see what he needs from you folks.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Baraboo. Councilor Paulson, anything that you want to report? Councilor Beyondich, is there anything that you'd like to report?
I'm sorry. No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. There's one item before we adjourn. We had that ribbon cutting in front of Cane Lakes Candy. You had the Cane Lakes expansion moving forward. This is the first step in the downtown neighborhood revitalization. They accepted a check for $49,000 with their investment in that regard. They're very excited to be there. They even brought one of the co-owners from Berkeley, California for this ribbon cutting ceremony. So I think Poppers and Bar and Commercial Refrigeration are ready to go. There's a couple others ready to go on this project. So when people say downtown is dying and the city doesn't do anything about it, it's not the city, it's a group of people who got together. All those people that Revive Virginia, the Virginia Foundation, the Laurentian Chamber, the VITA, and the City Council, and a lot of these volunteers that donate their time and talents to make this a successful project. And I want to thank Britt for taking the leadership role on this because it's really important. This is really exciting. We can revitalize this downtown, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the help of the IRRB and that pilot project of $250,000. So we're moving forward. We got the downtown going. We got the Miners project going. We're working on the pocket parks. Highway 53 is being more safe. There's a lot of good things going on in the city of Virginia. So thanks for everybody's hard work tonight. So is there anybody else have anything like to add before we adjourn this evening? Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director. Brian?
Since you always like it when I bring you good news, wanted to bring you one more bit of good news of something that is coming here this summer. If you remember last summer, we introduced or reintroduced Screen on the Green in the parks, which was our summer movie series in Olcott Park. Well, that went over really well, but we have modified it a little bit this year. So it's not just Screen on the Green. It is now going to be music and movies in the park on Tuesday nights. So starting in July, running all the way through August, every Tuesday night you have a reason to come to Olcott Park. Whether it is live music or a movie, we will have something going on for you. And you can be socially distant all around our park. Thank you.
Brian, during the movie time, if there's going to be popcorn available, the mayor's going to pay for the popcorn in the first movie, so, okay.
Will you be live streaming the city councils prior to the movies and music? Oh, wait, we want entertainment, never mind.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Maybe the mayor will pay for popcorn at a city council meeting.
You have my commitment. All right, thank you very much. Anything else anybody would like to add? Our city finance director, HR, Sherry Erickson. Sherry?
Can I put that in the budget?
I think we have a contingency opportunity there, so. Okay. Seeing no other action to come before the council today, thanks for the good humor. We stand adjourned to our next council meeting, which will be Tuesday, July 14th, 5:30 p.m. right here in the council chambers. Everybody have a safe week. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. We stand adjourned. Thank you.